Composing gloves here, and today we're going to be talking about secondary dominants. This introduces the idea of a secondary function. This is an incredibly powerful idea, and at the end I'll show you a little track that sort of fits it, but first we got to wrap our head around what is this secondary stuff? What the heck does that mean? And I think the easiest way to really do it is to show you a quick example, and then from the example it will become really clear and I can talk more directly about it. So let's say that you're writing a chord progression and we're sticking to our solid chord progression. So let's write the analysis right here. We're going to write a 1, 2, a 5, 2, a 1. And we're going to keep things in sort of a blocky sort of voicing just so that it's really clear what's happening. So first we write our C major chord. And so bam, C major chord, check that off the list. Then we write in our G major chord. And then we go back and write another C. And we get this. And that's kind of nice, you know, that's like the standard thing. If we really wanted to get fancy, right, we would write in a 5, 7. Well, this isn't really all that fancy, but this is sort of standard stuff here. So we'd add in an F, and that's going to tonicize it. I'm going to move the 7 off to the side a little so that we can hear it come in. And we would need some better voicing. Namely, we should really have a C here. So all of this stuff should be reviewed. You should be fine with this. You're like, okay, yeah, cool. This is like how it works. 1, 5, 7, 1. So we say, well, how can we make this more interesting without getting like overly complicated? Like what would sound really good here? What are some other choices? And so we have this other choice. We could do this instead. We could say, well, let's write out the chords. So we have a C to a G7 to a C. Let me say, well, we're thinking a lot in the key of C here, but we have other chords here, right? We have this G7. Why don't we think in the key of G7 instead? You know, what would happen then? Like, I don't know. So I think, okay, well, let's do that. So let's say, all right, or the key of G. I added the 7 just because that's what's in front of me. I'm like, oh, G7. But we're thinking in the key of G. So we think, okay, in the key of G, well, here we're using a 1, 5, 1, right? So we think, well, why don't we toss, if we're thinking in the key of G, the strongest resolution we have is a 5, 1. 1 or 5, 1, 5, 1. And so we say, or I always think of Flintstones when you hear down. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. Anyways, so we think, okay, what's the 5 in the key of G? And we say, well, that's D major. So we say, this is an interesting thing. What if we went C to D to G to C? And we say, well, this is really this is an interesting deal because D has an F sharp, right? And so in the key of C, there is no F sharp. There's an F natural. And so we're adding this chord because we're thinking, how can we get to G in sort of a more interesting manner? And so we say, this is really cool because this is the 5 chord of G. So this should pull really nicely. Like this should work out. And we can go pretty much anywhere from the 1 chord. Like it's fair game. You can jump all sorts of places. So we say, okay, well, if this is really a 5 chord, it would kind of make sense for it to be a 5, 7 chord, right? Because then that is like the most powerful resolution we can really have. So what if we went 5, 7 like this? And then what if we had to hit a G and then add the 7 on? So this would technically also be a G7. So let's write this out and see what we get. So we'll just copy our chord progression that we have thus far. I'll move it over here. And we're going to put a chord here before this G chord. We're going to put that D chord. And we're getting chromatic here. Look at that. We've got a chord here, a note here that is not in the key of C. That's like, whoa, buddy. But we have a pretty good reason for doing this. We're trying to get to this G in a really strong way, a stronger way. And so now let's say, okay, well, we need the C because we're going to add the 7. So we put a C in. And now this should sound really nice, right? Because we're going 5, 1 again. So let's listen to this. And we're like, hey, that works out like really great, actually. That's like stupendous. That really works good. And so how would we write this functionally, though? Like, how would we really think about this? Because we didn't get here by thinking in the key of C. We got here by thinking in the key of G. And so we say, okay, well, let's try and write this out. So we know we have a 1 chord. We're left with this this D7. We'll put a question mark there for now. And then we have a 5-7 chord, right? That's pretty easy. And then we have another 1 chord. So now we say, what do we put here? This is interesting. So what we put there is we write it exactly how we thought of it. So right, we're writing to go to a 5 chord. That's how we were thinking about it. So we say, okay, well, we were going to a 5 chord. And we're thinking, well, this chord here is the 5 of the 5 chord. So this is the 5 chord in C. So this is the reference to the key of C major, right? We're trying to get to the 5 chord of C major, and we're doing that by writing the 5 chord of the 5 chord. So this is D, which is the 5 chord of G, and so this is like the chromatic bit. So our goal was to get to the 5 chord, and we got to the 5 chord by playing the 5 of 5. And these are both 5-7s, right? So we're going 5-7 of 5-7, I guess technically. But this would be how we would write this. So when we do this, we've introduced some chromatic elements, and we're doing this by thinking in a second key. So we call it a secondary function. That's its function is to work secondary to achieve like another goal on our way to a larger goal in the main key. And so in this case, this is called the secondary dominant because we're playing the dominant of our chord. So right, we could have a whole bunch of different combos. We could have a 5-7 of like 2, for example. So what would this be like? Well, let's say that our chord progression, let's work backwards this time. Let's say that we have a 1, and we're gonna go to a 5-7 of 2 to a 5 to a 1. Let's keep it major for now. So we say, okay, what would that look like? Well, all right, let's come over here and look at this. So we say, okay, first up is the 1 chord. We're gonna work in C because it's easy for people to think in. So we'll write in a C, E, G. And then we have this 5-7 of 2. And so we say, oh, and then we should probably put the 2 in the middle there because that means we want to get to a 2, right? That's the whole point of the 5-7 of 2 is to arrive at a 2 chord. So that's an important note right there. This is like our little goal. So we say, all right, 5-7 of 2. And we say, well, okay, what is the 2 chord in C? Well, that's D. So that means that this 3rd chord over here is going to be D minor. And we want the 5 chord of D. And so we say, well, that would be A. That's going to be an A chord. So we say, all right, let's put an A in. Let's write this an octave lower. And it's a major, and we're adding the 7. So we're going to get one of these guys. It's kind of nice, too. We got a common tone. Ooh, 2 common tones and a chromatic movement. That's nice. I like that. And now we reach our 2 chord. So this is our 5-7 of 2. So this is chromatic, right? The key of C does not have a C sharp in it. Well, yeah, in this case, we'd be thinking of a C sharp. I got to be all careful with sharps and flats because it only gives you sharps. But anyways, we have this. And now we say, okay, we've got our 2 chord. Then we put in a 5 chord. I'm going to write an inverted version. And then we go to our 1 chord. So our 1 chord, right, we go. That's our 1 chord. And I randomly, oh, well, we have 4 voices here, so that's like whatever. Anyways, we wind up with this. And then we ask, well, what would it sound like without this? That's nice right there. I dig that. But let's say, okay, well, what if that wasn't there? What if it was just this, a 1 to 2? Well, then we'd end up with just a 2-5-1. So this will still be fine, but it's not going to be as cool, I don't think. I mean, like you could do an awful lot with this, but we'd have this. Like, oh, that's nice. And I'm writing these I'm giving them all an equal amount of time, but in reality, right, we'd probably, do something like this. Or yeah, let's scoot this over, make it shorter. Why not? Let's make a more interesting rhythm here. And so this is kind of cool rhythm-wise, right? Because this is really serving a 5 purpose to get to the 2. And then this is serving a 5 purpose to get to the 1. And so this should sound, you know, somewhat pleasant as well. We're writing a rhythm based around the function, which can be, you know, that can work out really great because we have this sort of symmetry going on, like a little motif. So that's what we have there. That is the basics of a secondary dominant, and secondary function chords work just like this. So we have some goal chord, and we have whenever we write the number on top, the numerator of our slash notation, this is always the chord that we're thinking in relative to whatever's in the denominator. So we think, okay, this is 2, this is the 5 of 2. So we could have all kinds of crazy stuff. We could have like a 3 of 2 if we wanted, or a major 3 of 2. You know, you can get really crazy with these. There are some that are more common than others. And I have another example that's sort of in a little loop that I made, and I expanded the loop out just to give a different example here. And the underlying idea is pretty simple. I want to get to a flat 3 chord because I was messing with the flat 3 chord and it sounds cool. And so we could think of it as a borrowed chord from the minor key. And so we have a 1 add 6. I just was starting there and I was like, the 1 add 6, the add 6 just out of, because I thought that would sound cool. And then we have here our flat 3's our goal, right? And then I have 2 secondary dominants, and all I'm doing is pulling a 2, 5, 1, if you really think about it. So we have a 2, 5, 1, and then this will pull real nicely back to the 1. This is I don't know like a specific name for this, but it's a pretty similar transition. Because it shares 2 notes from the C7 chord. So it's kind of nice that way, I guess. You could link it up like that. But anyways, yeah, so we've got a 2, 5, 1, and this 2, 5, 1 is relative to the key, or not the key, well, yeah, the key of E flat in this case, or the flat 3 chord. So that's what's going on. So let me go ahead and play for you this little thing. It's the same progression literally over and over and over. So, you know, in reality, I'd probably change up the progression and the function maybe a little bit, but this will work fine. And we get this really sort of interesting thing. So it's the same progression. I tried writing like a little melody. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. So what's going on here? I've already sort of said it, so that was just your listening example. But I want to play the progression by itself. So this flute here is just like outlining the chords a little bit. Not the whole chord, but some of the chord. And then this bell, it's actually like a wrench, a bunch of wrenches being hit with mallets. But this bell sound is just arpeggiating the chords. And if we look here, so we say, okay, a C, if I'm working in C, this is going to be just a C major with an add 6, so that'll be an A. And so we have C, E, G, A. And I kept the same pattern for everything. And then over here, we have a 2, 7 of flat 3. So we think, okay, flat 3 is the goal chord, and we're thinking in a flat 3. So what is the flat 3? That's E flat. So we say, well, E flat, the 2 would be an F. So I think, okay, I need an F minor 7 here. And so that's what I have here. F minor 7. So this, don't think of this as a G sharp, think of this as an A flat. So we have an A flat and then the E flat for the 7, and it arpeggiates through that. And then I go to the 5, 7 of the flat 3. And so I think, well, the flat 3 is E flat, so the 5 of that is going to be B flat. So I have a B flat chord here, a B flat 7, and that's what's going on right there. And then finally, we reach the flat 3. And so we just pulled the 2, 5, 1 for the flat 3, and then it just loops nicely back to the 1 chord. And this is really kind of amazing now, because now you can take all these chord progressions you already know, like the 2, 5, 1, for example, and you can simply insert them in a secondary kind of way. and it has some really nice effects. There's a bunch of other cool things that come along with secondaries, but we'll sort of save those for another day. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe, support me on Patreon. It helps immensely. And have a blessed day.